Hello, everybody. This is Mixlife, episode 16, the 16th hour of mixing information. I am the chemist. This is Mixlife. We got a couple discount codes for you guys on the bottom right here. Until 4th of July, you can save 20% off e-cig Express, and you can get 15% off both city flavors, vapors if you want. So if you are new to this and you're listening to what we're talking about, or you're just old hand at it, either way, those codes will save you some money for either flavors and VG, PG, and one shots or whatever you're interested in. I am happy to have with me Dave, or ID10-T, as you know him as Reddit. He's a Reddit king, and he's in all the flavors if you're looking for his recipes. How's it going, Dave? Oh, you're muted up.
I'm muted up. There we go. Here I am. I'm live now. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing good. So what we're going to talk about today is sort of beginner information. And even if you've already been a mixer for a long time, this information is going to be relevant to you as well. Maybe you've been mixing for a while. Maybe when you got started, you didn't necessarily do the right things, or maybe the best logistics. So this is kind of just to cover some of that stuff, the basics, but also, you know, you might learn a thing or two, even being a pro mixer. And so let me get the chat up so I can see what everybody's talking about and get your questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. Don't be afraid. All questions are allowed. No stupid questions here. So feel welcome to ask anything that you may even feel like is a dumb question if you got to. And let's see, maybe I'll start with my mixing story, how I got started, and then Dave can do his and kind of talk about how that worked. And then maybe we'll go into some of the details, like picking flavors, things like that. So when I started mixing, I'd been a vape shop purchaser for 2 years. And it was only when I was actually vaping and smoking cigarettes at the same time. And I would buy, you know, a bottle or two here and there. Let me make sure everything's working fine for everybody. But I'd buy a bottle or two here and there, and then vape on that over like a month or so. And it was only when I switched over to full-time vaping that I realized it was going to cost me an exorbitant amount that I didn't think I could cover at the time. So I almost got into DIY by force in wanting to quit smoking. So that created the desire in me. Okay, yeah, we're good. Everything's going. All right, I just want to make sure. And so that created the desire in me wanting to quit smoking so much that I was like, all right, I'm switching to vaping full time. Okay, now I can't afford vaping full time. What should I do? Hey, does anybody do this on their own, was the thinking. And I had never heard of DIY mixing. To me, I was scared of it, and I thought of it like, leave it to the experts. I don't want anything to do with, you know, pure nicotine or whatever I thought were the chemical things that went into making an e-juice. So to me, it was really out of fear that I didn't ever look for it earlier. And then it came out of necessity because I just could not afford at the time to buy the vape shop products. And I was even ordering, like, I think it was e-juice direct or some site like that, where I was getting, you know, really low price juice, but to hit the levels that I wanted, or, you know, I was a 2-pack a day smoker. It got up to 3 now and then. And that was really when I was like, all right, I'm done with this. And then I didn't even think vaping would really do it for me, but I was giving it a shot. And I switched over, and day one, when I started vaping full time, it worked straight up. And so my quit journey and my DIY journey were kind of two in the same, in that once I got switched over completely, and, you know, and don't feel bad. Like, I'd smoke a cigarette here and there, and I, you know, just because it was a hard habit for me to break. But as far as the 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes, those were gone, and, you know, this took over. And from that, I found Wayne, DIY or Die, and I started watching some of his videos. I found New Amsterdam Vapes videos. And then found the community. And those little pieces helped me to go from not having any idea what I'm doing to having some idea what I was doing. But at the time for me, I'm very visual, and I have kind of a hard time with Reddit, where Dave would be somebody that has a much better comfortable, he was active Reddit user, where I'd never even been on Reddit for any topic, more or less DIY, DIY e-juice making. So from that, I started with making a couple that I had just come up with recipes, and then a couple that were Wayne's recipes. And I think the first one was My Milkman, or the My Milkman One Hit Wonder clone, and then the Honeydew Boba clone. And I hadn't tried either of the original juices, but I liked where they were. I was like, oh, okay, these are close enough. From that, I started to learn and learn and learn and learn. And, looking back from when the day I started, so much more information can make such a better recipe today. But we want to help you guys get a little closer to making better recipes. And now, Dave, maybe tell a little bit about how you got started into the DIY mixing and sort of the beginnings of your mixing experience, if you will.
I'd love to do that, Adam. I got a few things to do first. One, I tried to help somebody out in the chat. Do you know anything about a Rice Krispie treat recipe?
No, I haven't played with that yet. I just haven't gone after that stuff. I'd use FA marshmallow for your marshmallow, because TPA has ethyl maltol hidden in it, and it'll mute your recipe down if you put too much marshmallow. So I think if you're going to go for a Rice Krispie, you might be dumbing it down accidentally by using the wrong marshmallow. So that's what I got to add to that. But I haven't tested any of the Rice Krispies. I even have sweet rice, and I haven't opened it. Sorry to people that sold out for, but
that's just wrong, man. You gotta get it, at least use it.
But I think it's a good profile to go after. Does anyone in the chat have experience with the Rice Krispie ranges? Maybe
I could have sworn that I saw a recipe for it like just today, but when I went to all the flavors, tried to open it, it kicked me out of the Hangouts, and I had to come back into the Hangout. So I'm out for now on hunting for Rice Krispie recipes. But there are a couple of good ones out there. I know it. And like you said, it's because they use the right marshmallow.
Yeah, I mean, in the chat, someone's talking about the price of cigarettes, and I mean, some places it's $15, some places it's $11. So smoking a pack, it'll get to you like price wise, and then 2 packs, so you're up to like $20, and that'll take a hit out of your budget. And to be able to have more spending money, DIY has, based on all the work we've done, has actually been a zero cost thing for myself. And that's easy to explain, to the girlfriend, is saying, hey, it's actually making money instead of costing money, where before it would be, $20 bill going down every day. So, if you guys are smoking, you happen to join us, or if you're just vaping and you're buying vape shop juice, some of those brands I'd say still support. If you got your favorite brand, I mean, some of these mixes on the vape shop side are really good, but some of them aren't. So it's really finding the gems that you love, that you can't clone, you can't copy, even when you do DIY. Maybe still buy those to get that experience. But for the most part, the recipes over in the DIY world are extremely advanced. I mean, you get some great work and labor put into these recipes, whereas maybe what it took to get that to a vape shop or in that juice, they may have done 3 revisions of that recipe to make it a little better. There are things like location of vendor. There are things like supply availability, wholesale availability, to the manufacturer that's going to mix up your juice. So there's a lot of factors. There's the cost to hit your profitability. So there's always factors that go into making that juice shop bottle work as a business that might not necessarily make the greatest version of that flavor that you're looking for. So when you're thinking about that, you know, I know we have a lot of pros in here, and we have a lot of you know, people that might be seeing this video for the first time. You never mixed anything, so we'll try to balance it. But for me, in my experience, DIY e-juice making is like the ultimate guy hobby. And you know, there's some women. Shout out to ML Nikon, Emily. She's one of them. But there's when you look at the statistics of the DIY community, it's about 90% guys. So it's something I consider to be one of the best guy hobbies, because you could be out woodworking, or you could be out, you know, doing whatever you like to do. But this thing produces a enjoyable result. You use your hands, you know, it's going to give you a valuable product at the end of the day. And it helps you substitute a you know, a dangerous product at the same time. So there's a lot of benefits to DIY mixing. And I was reading one of the posts is that one of the vape shop owners' shops burned down, and there are people that dig in the trash cans looking for juice that they threw away, because ultimately they can't afford that juice. You know, so there's, over the last year, the prices have come down on vape juice because of the FDA stuff. So you can get, you know, 60 or 120 for what was, you know, a 30, but it's still going to be cheaper to DIY. And when we say cheaper, I mean like $1 to $2 for the same amount of e-juice that you would probably spend 15 to 20 for. And it's not dangerous other than the nicotine. So that's something that you have to learn about, know what the difference is in milligrams are, know about nicotine safety, where you're wearing gloves. There's a testing kit to make sure your nicotine's a certain strength. And then the most important thing I'd say is buy the best nicotine you can find, because you were willing to spend the money for the vape shop juice where you didn't even know the nicotine that was in there. Why not buy the best one you can find, put the best quality stuff in, and then you're going to be having a much better vape experience. I mean, I never understand people that nickel and dime the nicotine nowadays when they're saving, you know, 70 to 80% of their juice cost prior to being a vape shop person. So I would definitely suggest, you know, maybe point one would be buy the highest quality nicotine you can find. And then maybe Dave, you can comment on nicotine if you'd like, and kind of go over what, in your experience, you've seen be the higher quality ones.
Oh, nicotine. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and recommend Carolina extracts as the best nicotine that you can buy. But right now I'm on a mission to find the second best, because not everybody wants to spend that much money on nicotine. The second best is probably, from what I can tell, only going to be a little bit cheaper, but you know, you save where you can. But at the same time, you can't afford to buy the cheapest nicotine, because that's going to be a mistake. You're going to wind up getting some oxidized stuff that's just, one time I got stuff, it tasted like the bathroom at a stadium in the summer, like at a ballpark where they don't have air conditioning. It tasted like the air in there.
Good stuff.
You don't want to wind up with that. Yeah, hey, you know what I wanted to say when you were talking about that? That it's never too late to start DIY. I started really early in my mixing. There are people asking me about these commercial juices all the time. Have you ever tried this? Can you copy this? I don't know. I haven't tried that stuff. I've been mixing for, you know, since almost, I guess, 5-6 months after I started vaping. So it's not like in most of that was house juice that I just bought, you know, that they mixed up right there behind the counter in their brick and mortar, 2 flavors, bam, done, here you go. And so I don't know that stuff, but whether it's late in your mixing, in your vaping, or late in your life, it's not too late. I wanted to give a shout out to Kay Miller from Tennessee. She posted in the Mixlife Facebook group, which is a private group. I don't know too many people getting denied when they're asked to join, though. She wrote, "Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me in your group. I have nearly finished all your great Mixlife shows. Once I started, I could not stop. I very much enjoy and learn a lot. I'm an old lady, 71 years. Just 71 years, Kay Miller. But I am so happy after smoking for 56 years. Can you imagine that?
That's amazing. I read that too. And that's what we're doing it for. I mean, you'll find when you guys, if you're a new mixer, and the old mixers know this, but it's very easy to get barked at or get snarked at. I mean, people are gonna, there's just so many. The thing about people that smoke cigarettes is it's a very broad range of people. You know, it doesn't necessarily dial in the same way like a religious group would or a social group would. You know, people go to this certain bar and there's certain types of people. This is just like, you got the spectrum of people from the kindest to the biggest asshole there is. And what happens a lot is new mixers get shot down, and it's not their fault. I mean, some of them are stupid because they don't believe in education. So then they deserve, you know, maybe a hand slap. But then there's the other ones that ask, you know, regular basic questions, and people are like, oh, this again. So that's kind of the problem with this, is that the gruffy people are quick to bark at people and not teach. So that not every mixer in these groups, not every mixer, even on Reddit, is going to be helpful. So the first thing is, when you're coming into this industry as a new mixer, or even if you've been a mixer, you know, just consider the source, consider who's, you know, is it a leader in the community telling you, you know, no, you can't make coffee concentrates, don't do it? Or is it a new or non-influential person telling you, you know, hey, that's a stupid question because you're asking about, you know, what's scaled about? You know, and that's one of the biggest things I'd say is, if you're a new mixer, be ready for some bullshit and just work your way through it, you know, because it's going to be tough sometimes, because when you go in the groups, you're not always treated nice when you ask basic questions. And that's without you realizing it's the 900th time that someone's asked that question. You know, so maybe some etiquette things. If you're going into the Reddit eJuice subreddit, they ask that you read the sidebar or post in the weekly new mixers thread. And those two places are safe places for you. So as a new mixer, you can go into that thread and you can ask any question that may be dumb or not. You're going to be answered in a very kind way. If you post a new thread, or you post onto a thread that's not relevant to that, you're going to get your hand slapped. So that's, you know, very important for if you're going into Reddit. If you're going into these DIY Facebook groups, they have very different tones, very different rules. Whereas the biggest one, you're not allowed to curse. In DIY or Die, you can curse like a sailor. And it's real easy to forget which group you're in and cause trouble. So that's the other thing, is find groups that match how you like to be. You know, if you like to curse and you like to be, you know, a little more, you know, loose with the way you speak, or joke around a little bit, you know, find a group that matches that. And that's an important thing. So, you got anything to add about the Reddit policing, or Reddit in general, Dave?
Oh, well, you know, I come from there, so I'm used to it, but I can see where it would be off-putting to someone who's new, and hasn't been there before, especially if they just want to ask a simple question and they post something and they get snarked at and yelled at and read the sidebar, you dumbass, and stuff like that. And that's unfortunate. I think the thing is, that is a wealth of information right there, and it's a wealth of information that's more easy to, a lot of people in true DIY fashion want to look for information and find it, and they don't want to ask a question. It's not because they're shy, it's just because that's the way they are. They want to research and dig in. And it is a great, fabulous place for doing that. It's like a library. And that's a good analogy. It's for one of the reasons why people get mistreated there sometimes, is that they come into a library shouting.
Right.
And you just don't do that. Just read the rules in any community you're in. Just read the rules and follow them. But it's good to find a community and to get help. Just find one that speaks to you. On the Reddit, one thing I try to do, I see people when they do that to new mixers, I'll ask them, why are you being mean to this new mixer? Are you having a bad day? Or, are you okay, man? Is everything all right? And just kind of, because sometimes you have to give people the benefit of the doubt when they're mean to you. And think about, maybe what's going on in their life that's got them down, that's got them lashing out like that. And sometimes it's just because it's anonymous, sort of. I think most of us know who each other are by faces and names from other sources, the crossover between Facebook and Reddit and YouTube and everything else. But it's hard sometimes for people to remember that there's a real person on the other end of that computer. Sometimes they need to be reminded.
No, you're right. I mean, you said it the best when you said, it's walking into a library shouting. Consider Reddit to be one of the most amazing resources. Their flavor library is impeccable. They've covered nearly every flavor, but you have to dig for it. And that, I know there's people out there that have the hardest time with Reddit, can't understand it. It's similar to like Snapchat to a millennial, and then to the Gen Xers. Like, it's just, it doesn't operate the same way that you're used to things operating. So it kind of glitches you out a bit. But I'd encourage you to, maybe you don't need to post there, and don't post there in the beginning anyways, because what you're asking has likely been posted. So learn to use the search function, which is what they encourage first too, is, but sometimes you don't know where to go. So the very first thing, brand new mixer, you've never done this before, go watch New Amsterdam's beginner video. It's a 30-minute video, and he's made two. The newer one from like 11 months ago is the one you want to watch. It's going to get you the right concepts.
Yeah, people learn differently too. Some people are visual learners who need to see something. They need to see something demonstrated. Some people are auditory learners who need to hear something, and some people are more visual learners and reading learners, where they take it in information by reading. Which, that's the kind of learner that I am. So that's why it was good that for me that I found Reddit first. I might have been lost if I had to just watch videos to learn DIY. So, I read information. I just absorbed it. I read everything that sub had to offer before I mixed my first bottle of juice.
Yeah, like Lonesome Road said, they would lurk. And when you look at the bigger DIY e-liquid group or e-juice group, it's 18,000 members. And you look at DIY or Die, it's 13,000 members. Well, where are they? And I think a lot of it is that they'd rather just see and not engage, because they might not feel, either one, they don't feel comfortable, or two, they've seen other people get tore up, or three, they own a vape shop and they're just looking for recipes, one of those. But this is Carolina extract, and this bottle right here is $30. It's a trial size bottle. And this is the PG. I've worked in the VG version as well. I didn't have a problem with either. I like this one because it allows me to add less extra PG to the juice. It just, by the time you get done doing the flavorings and you add your nicotine, the most you're going to add is like 1 to 5 grams at the most, depending on what you're making. And then, so like this is $30. Yeah, you can get a huge bottle, but these last me personally, because I mix just for myself, 3 months. So you end up not spending a lot of money. You're just spending quality money on quality nicotine. And this stuff blew my mind. When I got this from Vape Shop, the hit was stronger. The flavor was amazing. And the other part of it was like, right when I stopped vaping Vape Shop stuff, I would run into like what I perceived to be either cheap nicotine, or it had to be nicotine, because it was the pepperiness would drive me crazy when it would be on a juice, but also like irritant, like it would slightly irritate my mouth. And that was another reason I was interested in DIY. Like, let me find out what's actually going in what I'm vaping versus trusting someone I don't even know. And, I think if you go and you look at all the great mixers out there, they're people that have researched and learned. I mean, I would find the best recipes and I would look at what are they doing. I can tell you right now, Wayne uses 1.5% sweetener in his ice creams. And then I learned from that, right? Like, oh, you put meringue in. What does that do? Oh, fresh cream, Vienna cream. What are those doing? Okay. So once you find the good mixers and you look for consistency across the board, you're going to start to see patterns. And I'm an analytics guy. Like, I do data analytics, digital marketing in the daytime. So I'm used to like looking at data and processing it. So I would just look for patterns. I would look for, if there's 6 great recipes out there, and let's just say this, on ELR, just because it has the most ratings does not make it a good recipe. I don't know what happened there, but there's a ton of recipes that are in the top 100 that are not great recipes. They're just the oldest recipes, some of them, and they were the best thing around at the time. And that's a big pitfall that I see a lot of new mixers make, is they're mixing up something that's got 10% of this flavor and 8% of this flavor. And then they're complaining that, what's wrong with my mix? And that's just because they don't know that, a good recipe is layered. And the reason why is because a lot of these flavors that say one thing are not the complete thing. Like, strawberry ripe is not a strawberry, and definitely not like a strawberry you probably had in a good strawberry vape. It is a piece of a strawberry. Most of these flavors are pieces of the real thing. And your job is to figure out, either through looking at other good mixers, looking at the flavor notes on these things, and then just your own experience. When you get the flavors, smell it, get an aroma. And, if you have a good scent palette, you're going to be like, oh, that smells like this, but it doesn't smell like a strawberry. It smells like this part of a strawberry. And then you get the dragon fruit and you're like, oh, this is the other part. And then you get the strawberry non-ripe and you're like, oh, okay, now we got like a strawberry here. Now if I combine these, oh, but it's not that sweet. Okay, add a little sweetener. And in doing those layering pieces, what they call layering, but really it's just flavor combinations, you're going to come up with flavors that you're looking for. If you're coming from vape shop and you've never vaped DIY stuff, a lot of these mixers have took their palate from being super used to sweet to being completely over here where they barely or don't use sweetener at all. So if you're coming from vape shop, you're going to want to add sweetener. Now, maybe in a bottle of vape shop juice, there's 3, 4, 5% sweetener. You don't need to do that. I would encourage you to stick between 1 and 0%. If you need sweetener, go to 1%. If you're making something like that ice cream and it actually is part of the concept, 1.5, but that's the only time I'd ever go over like a 1. If you're making something where you're intentionally trying to make it overly sweet, right? Like like maybe you're doing a hard candy, Jolly Rancher, and you just want it to be sweet as hell. Maybe go, in that range of a 1.5, but not a 4%, not a 5%. And the other thing is that a lot of these flavors have other things in them. Like we mentioned with the marshmallow earlier, the ethyl maltol works well at adding an enhancement to the flavor and the natural kind of sweet ability of the flavor, but it's not the vape shop sweet that you're used to. So ethyl maltol, or EM as it's called, is not going to give you that same experience. So if you're trying to come right out of the gate, it's your first time mixing DIY, get sweetener and add 1% to something, even if the recipe doesn't have it in it, because you're going to find like this doesn't taste like a vape shop. And I think there's a lot of people that hit that mark, and that's the missing barrier. I remember like a year ago, Wayne posted like, here's the secret to vape shop juice, add sweetener. but it's the reality is that sugar lips, you know, and when you watch the reviews on the juice and stuff, people love the sweet, that sweet note, and it's almost like you're hooked on the sugar. So it's important for you to realize that a lot of these mixers that you're coming in and you're looking at an advanced mixer and you're looking at the way they mix something, well, you're not used to advanced recipes. You're used to trash recipes. So you kind of have to segue your way over to it. Let's see. Let's move on to, let's see. What are some other, let's go over this. Mix by weight. You want to get a scale. There's a lot of information. It says you should use droppers and pipettes and do things like that. But I mean, one's really easy and one is just a pain. And when you cover yourself in a bottle of any juice, you're going to know that you should mix by weight and use drop caps. And
especially if that juice is TFA papaya or something like that, that's nice and pungent.
Yeah, I spilled funnel cake. That was my awful.
Oh, how long did you use? So you used syringes for a while?
No, but I looked at it and I just was lucky to find Wayne's videos, and it made sense to you. It's funny because the videos I found of Wayne's were the first videos when he's just like in this old house that he used to live in, and it's like he's walking around with the camera, and they were just like literally the first 2 or 3 videos he ever made. So I'm watching like just what I thought was just like a random kid making, you know, vape videos, and you know, later on I find out, you know, all the work that he'd done and the better videos, but it was those beginning videos that he did way back in the day that got me into mixing. And, you know, like Emily says with sweetener, it's a crutch as you start to mix. As you start to mix through, it's not going to fix a bad recipe. You're just going to be, you know, covering up quality. No, we didn't mention nicotine salts yet. Dave, have you messed with the nicotine salts at all? Have you had a chance to try those?
No, I haven't. I haven't had a strong enough reason to. I will eventually, but it's just not something that I'm super interested in. There's so many flavors to play with without messing with that.
Right. Yeah, sub vapes, I haven't tried them myself. I was suggesting Carolina extraction, and people see a liter price, which is like $130, and they're like, no way, I'm out of here. But get the trial bottle and try it, and I think you'll see that the difference in quality is amazing. Like I haven't tried other nicotine because of it. I've always been a Carolina extract guy, and I suggest you try it too. If you never tried it, the whole team on Mixlife uses it, probably for a good reason. I mean, they're organically extracting in a cold compress from a certain tobacco field, so they're not even mixing their tobacco. You get like a direct from one field nicotine extraction, and they sell professional nicotine for like a e-juice company. So the good companies out there that put a little money into nicotine, you know, they're using Carolina extract behind the scenes. So, you know, I wish they'd sponsor the show because that stuff's good. Let's see. Yeah, you just if you're mixing by, you know, who did mix by syringes was Clayton with Steam Room, and we talked him into mixing by weight.
I did that for a terribly long time, and because it's intuitive. You learn when you're growing up that volume is how you measure liquids. So when I first started, there were some people mixing by weight, but a lot of people were still using syringes. So I was like, yeah, I don't need to buy a scale. These syringes came with my little kit that I got for my first mixing set, you know, and so I just kept at it for way too long. And I can't believe how much time I wasted washing syringes out. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then, you know, the spill, and then I was watching the Phil Busardo tour of Molecule Labs, and that guy, he said they mix by weight because as the air volume will change, the amount will change. So that's what they do when they're making a big bottle of cutwood to then, you know, mix in the smaller bottles. They use scales. So it's something to think about. It's a really cool video. There's another one I haven't watched yet, which is his tour of flavor art. But those are great just to get an idea for how the mixing world works. You know, if you care about the vape world, which is, it's interesting to learn about. Yeah, if you're looking for, you know, tobaccos, I say I like Hangsen, Hangsen, and they're out of China, but they do really good tobaccos. Sticks Mix, if you're looking for cigar type of notes. And then, you know, just always start with the RY4 and build off of that. But yeah, so I'll make sweet tobaccos, which I like, because I used to smoke black and mild. So that was kind of like my, you know, or the Swisher Sweets and stuff like that. Way before I started smoking cigarettes. I started smoking cigarettes because my my boss when I worked at this real nice restaurant, and she'd yell at me for smelling like black and milds. She's like, smoke cigarettes like the rest of us. So that's how I got into cigarettes, from my black and mild habit. I still love the tobacco flavor, and you can really replicate that well when you get the right tobaccos. There's a lot of tobaccos out there that have the anise, you know, kind of licorice note to them, or they're real peppery, and neither of those things are things that I like about tobacco. But when I found the Hangsen blends, those really hit the spot for what I was looking for tobacco wise. So if you're just a tobacco smoker coming from it, and you're like, I don't want this flavored junk, I don't want candy, cookies, or creams, I just want tobacco, there's recipes you can make like that. And you know, you might not even want the sweetener. Some people are hardcore tobacco fans. So there's recipes out there too like that you can get into. The money, you save so much money doing DIY. Just if you compare it to cigarettes, it's like the cost of one cigarette pack for like a month's worth of your nicotine fix. And if you compare it to just vape shop juice, it's like, you know, it's like 1/20th of the price for the same bottle, you know. But like, for me, like Philip Rock, Creme de la Creme, I can't clone that damn thing. I made Ghost Reserve, which is closed, but just, I like that juice. I'd consider maybe buying that juice again, but it would be like a Christmas type present for myself. You know, it wouldn't be something I'd be buying every week and breaking the bank to do. So whether it's money or whether it's, you know, there's another practical aspect of it being really fun to do. Yeah, like Shendo said, you know, smoke a cigarette when you're out drinking. That's a big one. Is really, you know, whether you're drinking or, you know, if you know, roll up spliffs, if you're into that, you know, those things will keep you using tobacco. So getting completely off the tobacco, don't feel guilty if you still smoke a cigarette or two. Simon Cowell, who vapes, the guy from American Idol, he vapes, and then he'll still smoke a cigarette now and then. And they asked him about it, trying to be jerks about it. And he said, it's about harm reduction. He's like, I'm trying to reduce the amount of harm that I do to my body. And that's something we all are doing by vaping, is reducing the harm to our body. Oh, the parakeet. Yeah. My buddy smoked the blacks. Those things are spicy. I think there's a Hangsen out there that is that flavor, that real peppery, but that's kind of a different flavor. And that's an interesting tobacco too. It's one of the original blends of the Native Americans. And I think you could replicate that Steve-O with some Hangsen tobaccos. Let's see. But, you know, look, congratulations to all the people here, because you guys are all, you know, making good choices by not smoking. You know, you're going to live longer. No matter what the bullshit propaganda from the FDA is, it is a tobacco harm reduction thing for sure. You know, my mouth doesn't burn, my throat doesn't burn, I don't cough up. Like, I used to go to bed and my tongue would like ache from the burn of the cigarettes. You know, it's just like, you get into that cycle, the habit of it, and you don't realize you're just fucking harming yourself horribly. Let's see. Let's talk about some other stuff though. We talked about nicotine. We talked about etiquette in the different forms and groups. We talked about definitely getting a scale.
Let's talk about testing your flavors. Is that on your list of items to talk about?
Yeah, well, let me throw this one in there for you guys, because you have an opportunity that we didn't really have as much. You know, when we started, the one-shot market was Wayne, DIY or Die. He owned America, basically. If you didn't like his mixes, you were out of luck. That's it. So you either liked Wayne's stuff and you loved it and you have the one-shots, but if you didn't happen to like it, that's it. But now you got ID10-T one-shots, you have my one-shots, you have his one-shots that are ever expanding, and you have the recipe pack. So if you're a new mixer and you're like, well, which flavors should I buy? Get a recipe pack. It is the best way to get started, and those are all vetted. Those recipes are good recipes. So you can come out of the gate, new mixer, you get your scale, you get your nicotine, you go on Bull City, right there. Go on Bull City, use that code, get your VG, get your PG, and buy 2 or 3 recipe packs, and you were starting way ahead of where we were. Just totally ahead. You're able to try 3, 4, whatever amount of recipes you try, and then you can say, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. Now let me personally work my way up to that.
Another reason why those recipe packs are so good is because you can customize them. I don't recommend doing that if you've never mixed before or if you're very unexperienced. But if you're fairly new, you get one of these recipe packs, you make it the way it says to make it, you try it, you like it, but you think, maybe if it had a little more of this flavor in it. You find a calculator, input those ingredients, find a calculator like all the flavors or the one that's on ELR, and then you can just up that a little bit next time and see if you like it better that way.
Yeah,
it's your mix. You can mix it your way.
Talk about those two. Is so what he's discussing is there's 2 websites that we recommend, all the flavors and ELR, which is e-liquid-recipes.com.
There's another one that I recommend. It's called .1ml.
Yeah, .1ml
is really good for beginners. And they have, I don't know if you've been there in a while, but they have weight on there now. It was just by volume for the longest time.
And yeah, and that one's a good one too, because that's going to give you just a simple, input that you can take. So if you've got the recipe pack, you can go to .1ml, and put in that input, and it's going to be a lot easier. You can go to all the flavors. All the flavors is not going to have a lot of the older recipes. So some of these mixes are ELR based. But if you're looking for a newer recipe that's popular, ID10T's got a ton on there that are great. And then it's important that you guys find the right mixers, because that's another thing I see is just because people are admins of a group or just because they're posting a lot in groups doesn't mean they're good mixers. So it's important that you maybe ask around, ask different people for good mixers. Everyone on the mix team can mix. That's why they're on our team. So anyone that's part of our 10 mixer team for Mixlife, they're on the team because their mixes are great. Like if they were great people and their mixes sucked, they're not on the team. And that's why everyone's on the team. And then Wayne's a great mixer. Skittles is a great mixer. Who else mixes great? You got some suggestions. Philosophucker with a P. He's a great mixer.
Yeah, if you like weird fruity stuff. I mean, and I mean weird in a good way. I don't mean weird is a common term that we use for bad things, like that has a weird note in it that's not good. But weird as in it just doesn't exist in the real world. He's not out there trying to make a copy of something that you eat or drink. He's just taking the flavors and letting them speak for themselves, kind of like an abstract artist. And he makes some amazing mixes that way. It's a different way to mix, but it's a pretty cool way to do it too.
And there's if you go to all the flavors and you go to mixers and then you sort by most followed, you're going to get a good list of people to mix from.
Yeah, I'd say that'd give you a pretty solid list. Yep.
You know, and then there's a couple more features that get missed, I think, is the flavor research side in ELR and then in all the flavors. So you can go to any recipe that you see on ELR and you click the flavor, and then you're going to get the flavor wiki for it, you could call it. And then it might look like there's nothing loaded, but that's because they're expansion boxes. So there's a section called notes that looks like there's nothing there, but if you click it, it expands out like 500 notes on that flavor. Now you have to look at the averages. Don't mix based on highest amount used of this flavor, lowest amount used, because they're crazy, they're wrong. But you can look at average, but then don't just stop there. Look at the notes, and then go and look at recipes inside the flavor wiki part and sort by rating. And then look at the top 10 and how are they using it? Like you might see that, you know, ethyl maltol is used at like an 8 or a 10 average or something like that. And then you go and you look at the recipes, and the recipes were all cotton candies, right? But that's not going to work with your recipe where you're using it just to tone down sharp notes. So take everything data-wise by the averages, kind of. And then once you've gone through kind of comparing how that flavor is used by the most popular recipes, how the notes describe the flavor, and then looking at all those things are going to give you a much better idea for what that flavor is capable of, and instead of just trusting the original recipe you see. You know, if you see that when you sort them by rating, or you're reading the notes and they're saying, you know, don't use this over 6 or it's going to be awful, but the original recipe said, you know, 10%, and the finished flavor profile is like 30%. Don't mix that. You know, trust the average. It's a group think of that community that's going to help you make good mixes right off the bat without being, you know, you don't want to trust the recipe, you want to trust the mixer. And that's my view, is that once you find a great mixer, you're more than likely going to like 8 out of 10. You know, I have a couple guys that mix my stuff all the time, and they post they love it and stuff, and but there's people that don't like what I make too, but that's because of their palate is different. You know, if you don't like vape shop kind of sweet, you know, like one of you guys was saying about the tobacco, like if you like a dry tobacco and you mix my tobaccos, they're usually creamy and sweet, you know, so they're not always designed to be like a real dry tobacco. But when you find a mixer you like, that mixes juice that you like, it's similar to finding a brand that you like a Cutwood type of thing. And then you're going to be able to go, and the next release, if you will, is like a new bottle they come out with, and chances are you probably would like that. So by finding mixers that you enjoy, you're going to be much more well positioned in the start. And like Dave was saying, if you take a great recipe and then you adjust it, you're going to learn when you do that. So as you're adjusting these things, you're gonna, so say you make his pina colada recipe, and say you want to add like guanabana to it, or lychee, or like one of those stranger flavors. You know, you can make a little mix that way because you already know what it's supposed to taste like. And then you see the effect of the changes you've made to it. So that's important too. Is I'd say first step is a one shot or a recipe pack. The only flavor kit that I've seen that's worthwhile is Nicotine Rivers, and that's because they let you pick flavors. But I'd ask somebody that knows what they're talking about. Message me, message Dave, message Concrete, and I'm gonna say Emily's a good mixer too. Great mixer, because I didn't include her, but she's a great mixer too. Not Charles Manson's a great mixer. Those guys are all good. Crucial Rages a lot of work are good, great mixers. Those guys are all putting out really good recipes. So like once you find these guys that you're like, oh, this is good. This is really good. This beats the vape shop. you're going to be able to keep following with that stuff. And it's a lot better than like trusting the top recipes on ELR or searching Blueberry, and you find a recipe and you just go with it. That's a tough way to find a good recipe, is just picking one at random.
Another thing I would add is don't make a huge giant batch of anything. Yeah. I don't care who made the recipe, and you think they're just the god of mixing and you've loved everything they've ever made before. I still would not recommend making a gallon of whatever that without tasting it first. That's crazy, because everyone is different and there's a good chance that you might not like it. You just don't know. So it's a really good idea to make a small bottle of something to test before you start going crazy with making giant batches and stuff.
Yeah, I see that a lot where they're like, I just made 500 mils of this, but I'm not happy. Or like, don't do that. I know you're excited about having a lot of juice, right? But you're going to be even more excited about having a lot of good juice. So just take your samples, make the juice, because you might want to make a modification. Sweetener, for example, like it might not be sweet enough. It might be too sweet. And if it is that, you're not going to be able to get back from that when you make a big batch. You know, so that's an important one. Like Alpine strawberry, for example. How many out there ruined the mix because of that? You know, and that rich cinnamon is another one. Like those ones are gonna take you time to get used to using, and it's much better that you ruin like a 10 mil or a 30 mil than 300 mil. You know. There's someone asking how you delete recipes on all the flavors. Like I couldn't figure that out either, but Emily was saying you just hit the trash can button. I think it's in like the full load of once you load the recipe up. And then let's see what else is going on here. We got summer mixes coming to England. If you guys don't order from chefs, if you've already been a mixer for a while and you're like, man, I'm getting bored, you know, there's a lot of cool stuff over at Chefs. Like there is maybe 20 different one-shot companies. There is a bunch of different crazy flavor companies, and Concrete's been doing some reviews of them. You know, Decadent Vapors, cool. It's just there's strange stuff like marmalade. Like they just released a new line with like marmalade was one, and I was like, oh, I want to get that. And then you know, people are looking for that Just Jam type of clone. You're more likely to find it from the British concentrates. And we both won a contest, Coppell and I, we got lucky enough to have like, I think I had $50, or he had 50 and I had 100, and we just bought a bunch of random stuff. But it's so cool to see how England mixes versus how we do. Like they like things really sweet, and they probably won't admit that, but their stuff's maybe twice as sweet as we like it. And they like flavor and high because they'll go up to like a 20, 25, and just that's how they rock and roll. But it's really cool to see like what a different country mix is like. And it's only $7 shipping. So it's not like it's not going to cost you more. The only thing, it takes longer to get here. But then you get like a cool package with Royal Mail labels and stuff from England. So that's fun. And I'd recommend it. I mean, we have different concentrates, one-shots over there. We're dropping 4 new summertime. You can get Darren Cole's one-shots over there, which are really cool. You know, and the one-shots are great. Even if you're a full-time mixer, like when you get in a rut or you're just like, I don't want to fucking mix something right now, it is so great to just like one-shot something when it's a good recipe. You know, so I suggest you try that. If you're like a pro mixer and you order from Bull City all the time or e-cig all the time, give it a try too with the British flavors, because it'll take your mixing to another game. Like you can't always release them to people, you know, because you'll release like Devon cream in something and everyone in the US will be like, what is that? but consider that. And if you're a pro mixer or one of these guys in the chat that's doing professional recipe releasing for people to mix, consider mixing for the UK as well. Because it's cool to be able to be like, all right, this one's for the UK. It's got these ingredients that I know I can get from chefs. And then, you know, this is the US version. So consider that, guys, if you've already been mixing a bit. Let's see. Dave, give us some wisdom.
Just give it to you, huh?
Yeah.
We're almost out of time. You already mentioned New Amsterdam Vapes video, and I've already talked about the different learning styles. But if you are one of those learning styles that would prefer to watch things on video and hear it, I would definitely recommend that you watch that video if you've never mixed before. And especially if you're an auditory learner, because that man's voice.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, it's butter, baby.
So sexy. If you think Adam's voice is sexy, you haven't heard anything yet.
I think your voice is sexy.
What are you buttering me up for?
Yeah, don't do the oak barrels. I know that Five Pond says they do that, but just add a little red oak from Flavor Apprentice and a little bit of Flavor Art oak wood, and that's going to give you everything an oak barrel would. If you want a bourbon note, add Kentucky bourbon Flavor Apprentice. Just do that. Make your own oak barrel flavor, because I know that's what they're doing. Even like they might throw the juice in there, but the flavor's coming from the oak that they're sneaking in. And you got so much. You go into deeper DIY. Like it's just generally not. I know some people like to do it, but when you're looking at the wood, you have particles that are going to seep in. You like. My dad used to do construction, and they pre-treat wood, and you don't know what these little barrels that are perfectly fine for a whiskey are going to do to your e-juice that you're going to be aerosolized, you know, turn into aerosol and vaping. Yeah, but the secret, you know, we got 3 minutes, but the Pretty Matthew, who runs Charlie Noble and tons of other, you know, lines that he has. He's very involved in the scene. He said that is his #1 favorite flavor is TPA Red Oak. And they're not like Bull City doesn't have it, I don't think. And I'm not sure if e-cig has it. Wizard Labs has it. So that's something to think about is doing that. Yeah, like Shendo said, Red Oak is in almost every 5 Pond juice. So what they say is the barrel is really just a hard to find flavor. But I think you guys should definitely try it out. And let's see.
It's not that hard to find. I got some from Nicotine River a while back.
Good. So yeah, pick that up if you haven't tried it. And then the other tip that he said that was really good is use RY4 in fruits. And I tried that with like a grape cherry moya, and it was really good. So if you never used RY4 as a fruit back note, give it a try. And let's see. So we covered nicotine. We covered mixing by scale or weight. We covered etiquette in DIY forums and groups. We covered following good mixers. Let's see. We covered how to find a good recipe, how to research your flavors, what nicotine to get, how not to mess up your first batches, and all that good stuff. So I hope you guys had a good time. Hope we didn't bore all you pro mixers out there, but I hope you new mixers are going to get something great from this. And just want to say thank you to Dave for joining me on this 4th of July Sunday. And that's the most important part, is guys have a great 4th of July. Thank you for being with us. And then I'll leave the chat going a little bit. If you guys have some more questions, we'll keep it going. And,
have a great and safe 4th of July.
Yeah, don't blow your hand off with a firecracker. It's not a good idea. Oh, and then if you guys can find it, there's a video I found. Get a new battery. If you got tears in your battery, get a new battery. Because I watched a video of this battery just explode all over a vape shop that was ripped. So I would highly suggest you do that. Peace out. Say Mixlife.
Yeah.